Hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming in. We're here at the Richmond Hilltop Community Church, located at 3118 Shane Drive for our Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council meeting. And this is going to be our COVID edition. We had speakers lined up. Unfortunately, we just got a phone call that RPD, our beat officers, two of them were exposed to COVID, and our district captain will be taking them to the hospital to be attended. So unfortunately, they won't be here tonight. So I wanted to let you know that we have sent out our newsletters, and there are phone numbers on this newsletter. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call these numbers. We also have a Facebook page. We invite you to like it, join us, comment on it. It's on Facebook. It's called Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council. We also have a YouTube channel, so I ask that you join us there, where this video will be posted later on this evening.
Arno, why don't you hold that up without putting your fingers in front of the numbers so people can read the numbers.
Okay, there you go.
You know, keep your fingers off the numbers. There we go. Much better.
Everybody in the neighborhood should have received one of these, and if you didn't, the phone numbers are on here. That being said, we also had scheduled our city manager, and she also had a COVID-related incident where her mom is in the hospital, and she won't be able to make it tonight, and so we send our prayers out to her. And she was kind enough to send us a representative from her office, and I'd like to introduce her now.
Hello, everyone. My name is LaShonda White, and I'm the Acting Deputy City Manager for Internal Services with the City of Richmond. It is my pleasure to be here on behalf of City Manager Snideman tonight, and I want to share a few things with you about, give you some updates around COVID, as well as the fiscal year 1920 and 2021 budget, and then talk about some issues that I think are important to this neighborhood council with regards to code enforcement and police. So on behalf of City Manager Snideman, I just want to say thank you for having us here tonight. We are happy to present to your neighborhood council and share some information with you. As you all know, this is an extremely challenging time for all of us to be in. That includes our community members, our businesses, and the city itself. At the top of everyone's mind, of course, is COVID-19, as well as the city's budget. So I'm going to start off with COVID-19. The good news about COVID-19 is that both statewide and in the Bay Area, we are continuing to see progress in flattening the curve of the pandemic, which is measured both by the trend of new cases as well as the number of hospitalizations. This has resulted in the governor's reduction of some of the restrictions in the statewide shelter-in-order. However, as you know, most Bay Area counties are presently maintaining more stringent rules in their health orders, including Contra Costa County, which stated that the terms of this existing health order will remain in effect through its expiration on June 1st. I do want to let you all know that over the past few months, the city, the county, and the state have put into place a variety of programs to assist community members who are greatly suffering during the shelter-in-place process. Some of those things that the city has been putting in place, we have a call center now for to connect residents to resources, so we're excited about that. The city also has received substantial grant funding to our Richmond Works program to support underserved populations, as well as workforce development services. The city's emergency order prohibiting evictions was put in place. And then the state's disaster relief assistance for immigrants programs, as well as the city of Richmond is in partnership with community-based organizations such as RISE, Building Blocks for Kids, Richmond Promise, and the West Contra Costa Ed Fund are working along with a number of other community partners to establish what's called the Richmond Rapid Response Fund. So very soon we're going to be going live with that, which in phase 1 will provide direct disbursements to families in Richmond in need in the amount of $500. People can learn more about that at richmondresponsefund.org. So we have a lot of information on the city's website about COVID, so we please ask that you go visit that. Now I'm going to turn it over to talking a little bit about the budget, and I'd like to provide an overview of our current situation. In short, we're dealing with what we term as a long-term structural deficit. So the impacts, we're also dealing with the impacts of COVID, limited reserve funds, as well as the need to rebuild those reserve funds. We also have unfunded maintenance costs, such as streets. Currently, our projected budget deficit for next fiscal year, starting July 1st, so our fiscal year goes from July 1 through June 30th, is $29.5 million. We are continuing to do a lot of work with departments, working with our council and our unions to find ways to both increase revenue as well as to reduce expenditures. We do have goals put in place, which are, number one, to create a structurally balanced budget in the future. We want to preserve services to the greatest extent possible. We are, of course, considering the impacts of COVID on the services that we can provide. We want to minimize staff reductions. Our employees are our greatest assets in the city of Richmond, and so we really want to minimize the impact to them while also, as I stated, preserving services to the greatest extent possible. But we also know it's important to increase our cash reserves to a level that our policy outlines and to maintain our bond ratings, which are all really important for creating a sustainable structural budget and a successful city budget. So with regards to the current fiscal year, we have done a lot of things to try and address this budget deficit. We are, of course, taking into account the impacts of COVID-19, which includes significant losses to our sales tax, losses of hotel tax, and then there's a continuing uncertainty in all revenue sources. We are not alone in this. There are other jurisdictions throughout not only the county, but the country that are dealing with this also. So we are not alone, but we are really trying to work hard collectively to find ways to address this solution. As stated, we do have budget pressures that include labor costs, as well as unfunded deferred maintenance. For the current fiscal year, so currently, which ends June 30th, we do have a $7 million deficit. So we've been working really hard to close that so we can start the next fiscal year off on better footing. We've identified some expenditure reductions right now that total up to almost close to $4 million, which leaves us with a little over $2 million to continue to work on to decrease the budget and to balance it so that we can address the remaining gap. For next year's budget that I stated has a deficit of $29.5 million. We've already provided council with a number of recommendations on March 26th at the last city council meeting, so please go check it out on the website, where we provided a list of options that would reduce our budget deficit by 50%. So we're really proud of the work that went into doing that. We know we still have work to do. We still have $14.5 million approximately to cover the deficit, but we're working hard to deal with that. Some of the things that we have looked at are hiring freezes for some positions, including some police positions, reducing departmental operation budgets, reducing funding in some of our programs, as well as utilizing a capital lease to reduce a single-year expenditure for information technology replacement. We have a lot of technology needs. We still need to make sure we can function as a city, but we're trying to get creative in terms of how we can address some of these issues. So as I stated, we are really excited about the work that we've done so far. We know we are not done. We have lots of work to do, so please continue to watch our city council meetings. We'll be meeting and talking about the budget every single Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. City Council. You can check us out on KCRT to just stay up to date on what's happening with our budget. So on June 2nd, which is our next City Council meeting, we are going to provide some proposals to our City Council about possibilities, and how we can reduce our budget deficit to hopefully get to a balanced budget before June 30th. And so we're hoping to do that on June 2nd as a starting place. We do have some bright spots. With regards to revenue, we are also looking at revenue. We have ballot measures that we are working with unions and community-based organizations through a group called Lift Up Richmond to place ballot measures on the November ballot to increase our revenue, which will help with the structural deficit. We also have some bright spots with regards to new development. We have 434 units under construction. Over 1,000 units are entitled, and 745 are under review right now. We have nearly 1 million square feet of warehouse development in construction or under review, and we also have 2 100-plus room hotel developments under review. So we're excited about what's to come in the future. So I'm going to now quickly move over to code enforcement, as I know that is a concern, an issue that has been brought up in your neighborhood. Our code enforcement staff is working really hard to meet the great need that Richmond has, and it's true that they are handling a vast workload with increases in some violations, including illegal dumping. It's difficult to look at possible increases in staffing for our city function, including code enforcement. However, we have identified resources in the building division, which is a non-general fund division, to provide additional funding to fill the now vacant 1 code enforcement position for the next fiscal year. We also want to state that Eva Mann is working with her staff and the Community Development Director to develop new strategies to address key concerns raised by residents, specifically around property maintenance, unapproved parking, as well as vehicle abatement on private property. These strategies are being formalized to do a campaign blitz of key issue areas within the community that will begin with education and outreach and followed up by enforcement activities. Finally, one key item residents can do to help code enforcement staff would be to use the city website when possible to submit code enforcement concerns. This will ensure timely response by staff as well as assist in tracking the key areas of concern by neighborhood. You can do that on the city's website by clicking on COR Connect on the COR Connect button and then select Report an Issue or Concern. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time, and it was my pleasure to be able to provide updates on COVID, the budget, as well as code enforcement. Thank you.
Maintain your social distancing, pal. No mask.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that. By the way, I hope everybody is taking this COVID thing seriously and wearing their masks and social distancing. We need to flatten the curve even more. And please join us on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel at Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council. And look for your newsletter if you haven't already received it. There are phone numbers on there. Feel free to call at any time if you have any issues. And I want to thank Don Gosney for recording this and the Hilltop Community Church for allowing us to have their facility. With that, thank you very much.
Before we adjourn, though, perhaps the audience can ask a couple of questions of our Deputy City Manager.
Well, of course, if you don't mind.
I do not mind.
Okay.
I'm going back up, all right?
Yes, we'll make it worth your while to be here.
It was already worth my while.
Yeah, well, nothing else, we love the smile. You talked about some of the effects with COVID. We all know that the governor has relaxed the standards. He's allowed some phase 3 businesses to open up. But here in the Bay Area, we have more stringent rules. And so we are not opening up. I can't get my hair cut. I can't get my pedicure. But is there a possibility, to your knowledge at least, that if things here in West County or in Richmond improve, that we may get an exemption, or is it going to be the entire county as a whole?
So these are really good questions. One thing I can say that we understand that the state is relaxing some of their requirements, and other counties are doing different things. We just had a call today actually with the health, the Contra Costa County health officer, and some of these very same questions came up in terms of relaxing additional restrictions. Our county is really looking at the numbers and making sure that we are safe and we're using our best judgment in terms of relaxing different restrictions. And so they'll be listening and looking at what the state is doing, but as you can tell, we are a few weeks behind what the state is doing in terms of relaxing some of the restrictions. So we are following our county health officer's lead. and our counties lead in terms of what we're allowed to do. So we are definitely, as a city, wanting to remind people to not re-engage the way in which I'm sure we all want to re-engage, to make sure you're adhering to the restrictions and the current health orders that are in place for our county, and that as the county continues to look at numbers, look at hospitalization rates, look at cases, they will make different decisions and keep us updated. We're staying in really close contact with our county health officer to make sure we're on top of that so we can provide that information out to the city as quickly as possible.
I can probably go for another month or so without a pedicure, but if I go one more day without getting my hair cut, that woolly buffalo look doesn't look good. We've got to do something on that. But still on the COVID, the governor too has announced that with restrictions, that churches will be able to reopen. Now, make sure that the churches meet these standards, having a program in place, having sanitation standards, the social distancing. Will that be looked after by city officials or by the county officials or state officials?
I apologize, I don't know the specifics around what our county is doing with regards to church. I feel like whatever the restriction is for the state is not one that I believe we are following in the county. So people need to look to what the county, Contra Costa County, is allowing in terms of gatherings versus what the state is allowing, because they are different.
Okay. Richmond has perhaps a significantly larger percentage of churches per capita than a lot of other cities in the county. And we all know that church-going people like to attend their churches. They like the fellowship. They like being able to be in the house of God. And this has caused problems in the southern states in particular with people just ignoring the rules in place. We just want to make sure that we don't have violations here that will force the governor or the county health officer to slam the door shut and go back to the way things were. So I think everybody wants to know who's looking after it, who's making sure that everybody is following the rules as laid out, because they got to know what the rules are first. So you talked about the budget. Everybody's dealing with the budget. It's hurting everybody. But here in Richmond, are we expecting any kind of layoffs? Do you know how many people might be laid off?
So the city is looking at, everything is on the table right now in terms of the different strategies we are looking at. Layoffs is the absolute last resort in terms of things that we're looking at. So what we have provided to our city council are what we call buckets. The first bucket was general operating expenditures, things that departments can do to reduce expenditures. And so that is what was presented last week to city council, where they approved $15+ million of reductions that got us 50% the way to a balanced budget. And the next bucket of items are what we're calling accommodations, things that we need to talk to our bargaining unions about that can provide some additional savings. The last thing on the table is for us to look at layoffs. And so, we're doing our best to figure out what other things can be put in place to limit that, but I don't have any numbers for you on the number of layoffs. We are going to be providing some additional information to City Council this Tuesday, as well as future meetings every Tuesday, so I encourage people to stay tuned. We are working and meeting every single day as staff. Our finance department is working extra hours, overtime. We're really trying to figure this out to make sure we're getting the best information, not only to our council so they can make the most informed decisions, but to our unions as well as to our community.
Okay. We also know that the council is considering the closure of facilities like libraries, swim centers, and other things. Can you expand on that? Give our viewers at home some idea of what kinds of things the city is looking at closing?
So what I can say about that is for right now, I would tell people with regards to the budget, don't be too concerned at the moment with regards to what's going to close, because we're still trying to figure everything out. So things are closed right now because of COVID. So pools are closed because of COVID, as well as libraries and our recreation centers. So the closure is due to COVID right now. In terms of next fiscal year and what we're going to have to do. We are also wanting to look and see what the county health orders are going to tell us. If the county health orders continue to limit the restrictions of what can be done in terms of gatherings, as a city, we are going to have to look at service levels and what is it that we can actually provide. We have received a lot of feedback and requests from community members during the council meetings that talk about how important our libraries are, our pools are, our community centers are, and as staff we completely agree with that. Richmond is a very unique community, a beautiful community in which people really do depend on those areas. I feel like hearing from our council, they understand that also. So at the moment, if you look at what has been presented to council and what they have adopted thus far with regards to the budget, it does not include closing pools, it does not include closing libraries, it does not include closing community centers. We do have to, however, look at what the impacts of COVID are on the budget, and what due to COVID, what we are allowed to actually do. So stay tuned, and we definitely understand as city the importance of those centers and facilities in our community.
Okay. So we got two more questions, and we'll turn it back over to Arto. You mentioned that the council may be considering putting items on the ballot in November. But you mentioned a group that the city is working with. Can you tell us again what that group is?
Yes.
And who they are?
I can. So what I mentioned in terms of the revenue enhancements are with regards to ballot measures. So we're looking at just revenue in general because we need to increase revenue while at the same time reducing expenditures. There is a group called Lift Up Richmond, which we are happy to work with. They consist of the City of Richmond's bargaining unions, so police, fire, local SCIU 1021, as well as local 21. They have come together with the help of some nonprofit organizations. So I know APEN and RISE are two of them, and I'm missing one, and I apologize to that organization that I'm missing your name. But they've come together to look at how they can support the city in increasing revenue. So right now, I do know that they're looking at business license tax, and we're working with them around language, providing information to them. So they will be providing information, working with us to the council to put something on the ballot in November.
My last series of questions you mentioned the city council meetings.
Yes.
You said every Tuesday.
Yes.
Traditionally, they don't meet every Tuesday. Have they changed or amended their schedule? And normally they take off a month in the middle of summer to go pick the crops or something like that. Have they decided to work through the summer?
So I can't speak to what they have decided for August. So usually they take a recess in the month of August. I have not heard anything different about that. But because of our current budget situation, starting in the month of May and all the way through June, the council has made a decision to meet every Tuesday. So they are meeting the 2nd, the 9th, the 16th, and they're meeting every Tuesday in the month of June. So.
And if a member of the public wanted to participate in a city council meeting, I don't mean just watching it on KCRT, but they wanted to comment on issues, is there a way for them to do that?
There is a way for them to do that. There is a list of possible options for residents to participate and be engaged in our council meetings. At the moment, because of COVID-19 and social distancing, we cannot allow you to be in our chambers. However, if you go onto our City of Richmond website, to the clerk's site, you will get a list of how you can participate. So you can call in and speak at open forum or on an item, and they'll allow you to call in and your voice can be heard that way. You can submit written responses before 3 p.m. to the City Council, and they will be able to summarize your comments, and we'll include them in the written record for the meeting. And also, if you submit your items after 3 p.m., they will read your comment at the City Council meeting. So please go to the website so you can get all the specifics about exactly what you need to do, but we encourage you to be engaged.
So they would go to the city clerk's page, then they would go to the City Council subpage, and then pull up an agenda where then it's printed in detail at the beginning of the agenda?
Yes. And you also can, on the home page of the city, There is an icon that says agenda documents. You can click on that. That takes you to all the different agendas. And if you click on one of those, it gives you all of the details on how you can be engaged. So there's many ways to find it.
That is great. I understand Mr. Rentile has some questions.
I do. One of the questions is that I heard you speak about hotel taxes, motel taxes, and I do know that there are 2 hotels here in Richmond where they're housing the homeless, particularly here in our area, the Hilltop area, Courtyard area, 149 homeless folks, I believe. The city is not getting any tax money or any revenue from that.
Are you asking?
I'm asking.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So I don't have all the details for that, so I don't want to speak incorrectly on this item, but we have staff looking into and confirming that we are actually receiving hotel tax. So the county is paying for those rooms the way that any person would pay for a room at the hotel, and our understanding is that we are receiving hotel tax, but we are confirming that.
Okay, and then the last question, and we'll let you get going, is has there been any movement or feedback from Hilltop Mall? And are you in communication with Hilltop Mall in any way, shape, or form?
So unfortunately, I am not the right staff person to answer that question about Hilltop Mall. I have other people in the city manager's office that can provide information. We do try and keep information up to date on our city website. So if you go to the city manager's office, we have an economic development page, and you can find out more information about not only Hilltop Mall, but other developments that are happening in the city of Richmond. So I apologize that I don't have details on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for showing up.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
having us, and please stay engaged in what we're doing in Richmond, and thank you for having us here, having me here. Thank you.
And don't forget your masks.
Don't forget your mask. Continue to social distance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.